None of my resource packs are working. What the fuck? Ew, we got high contrast. What the fuck? We got saturated colors. We don't have everything in like washed out gamma. What the fuck? Hey gamers. Oh my god. Thunderstorm. All right, no time to talk. There's a thunderstorm. All right, gamers. So, basically, my footage got corrupted. There's like a whole fucking hour of like footage. I don't even remember what I was doing. And it was boring anyways. It was the worst commentary I've ever given in my entire life. It is the cope we're going with today, so. Ow. Yeah, I did that on purpose, okay, guys? Fucking hate this world. Alright, gamers. Yes! Let's go, let's go, let's go. Alright. I feel like we want a skull, right? But I guess we can get skulls from ancient cities. That's kind of pointless. Alright. Come on. Oh, are you fucking kidding me? I don't... Why the fuck do I always leave myself in, like, the worst possible fucking position? I don't know how I, like, left my game like this and thought it was okay, you know? God, I hate skeletons so much. Good thing they aren't real. No! And the thunder stopped, because of course it fucking has. Fuck. I hate... Why do I not have any food? I wish there was a way to summon, like, a lightning storm. They're too fucking uncommon. I think I've come to the conclusion that I should actually build something. I think I'm focusing too much on, like, superficial things, you know? Like, oh, I gotta get diamonds. Oh, I gotta get armor and enchantments and shit. Who the fuck cares about that? I'm not just saying this is a cope, I swear. We're just gonna build. And, you know, I get that it would be better if I were to build with, like, full enchanted shit or whatever. But I'm not going to. And it's gonna be a bit slower, but I'm gonna have fun for once, maybe. I just gotta figure out what the fuck I'm building. Alright. There's one more superficial thing I actually do need to focus on, and that's food. I've noticed 90% of my issues are not having any food, and that sucks a lot. You know, I think what we do is we just hunt for fish until we have, like, a stupid amount. Or maybe we fish. Actually, why don't we fish? You know what, gamers? I got nothing better to do. Let's go fishing for, like, an hour, and we'll get so much food that I won't run out for at least one episode, you know? Man, that's such a beautiful valley. You know, I feel guilty for it, but I've found myself longing for something different already. I really do have, like, no commitment. I'm like, oh, look at how beautiful that valley is. What if we had lived in that valley instead? I think things would be so much better if we had just, you know, chose that valley, but instead we're stuck with a dead-end, you know, base location, you know? What could have been? You know, this is basically fly fishing if you think about it, right? Because I'm like knee deep in the water. That's what people always do for fly fishing. I'm not wearing the proper clothing for this. You gotta have like one of those silly fisherman outfits. Oh, look at me. I'm fly fishing. Hold on. Oh, fly fishing. I think 90% of my audience doesn't even understand that reference. You know, I don't know why I don't do this. I guess because it's boring as hell, but like, this isn't a bad way to, you know, get food, experience, the two things I lack most. This is kind of like calming. Honestly, this is what I needed to do after like losing all my items and getting like frustrated. You know, I've never seen a dead body. Actually, that's a lie. I've seen a dead body. Oh, I caught some bloated corpse. Ew. Let's, defile it. I've only seen one dead body in my life. It was when my great-grandpa died. I saw him. It was like open casket. He was like embalmed or whatever. And he just looked like he was sleeping. It was kind of weird. Just like this old dead white guy. I don't feel like that counts. I remember one time, one of the kids who went to my church died. And he was like a week away from my birthday. Like we were almost exactly the same age. And you know, I remember at the time kind of like thinking, oh, like this is like an alternate version of me. This is like, you know, this guy is like me if I died right now. That's kind of weird. And I'm going to be like the version of him who didn't die in a way. They had an open casket funeral, you know, apparently they made him look all nice, but my parents thought it would be kind of like fucked up and traumatic to like see a kid almost exactly my age but dead. And that's fair enough. Very ironic to this conversation. He died by drowning. He drowned in a river. He was trying to save one of his friends and died. Yeah. It feels, it's probably like disrespectful to just like use the death of like some random child as like something for one of my videos. I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful. I feel like maybe I shouldn't have even brought it up. But I don't know. We weren't really like friends. I'm not going to be one of those people who like, oh yeah, I knew him so well. We talked a few times. We didn't really have the same interests. He was super into like the military, and I'm not. He was like super Christian. I was super Christian at the time, but like I had this weird imposter syndrome thing about like my Christianity where it was like, oh, I'm not like a real like Christian. I'm not like a devout enough. And so like I kind of viewed him as like oh, this guy actually like fully committed to this shit. I'm just a phony. It's just funny because if you ask literally anybody like outside of the church, they'd be like, oh man, you're like the most Christian-y like Jesus freak kid I know. But it wasn't enough for my church. My church was very very much about keeping you on your toes. You're always supposed to be insecure about your status as a Christian. You can always be doing more. You're not trying hard enough. They kind of loved like comparing Christians and comparing each other, outright they're like, oh, don't do that. That's bad. Don't compare each other. Don't compare yourselves to like your fellow Christians. But in practice, everybody was like constantly comparing themselves to each other, Oh, are we like this family? Is this family better than us? Or are they worse than us? You ever think about how it's weird that the bobber on the fishing pole is like connected to the hook? Like that's not how fucking bobbers work, idiot. There's like a whole line that like stretches down no, there's a line that like sinks down from the bobber and then the hook's like at the bottom of it. I'm just saying, completely inaccurate. I'm gonna make a resource pack where it's like just an extra like 30 pixels. And then when you like cast it or reel it in, there's just this really long black line that like on the texture and it looks really silly. Yeah, gee, I wonder why they didn't, do it that way. But yeah, they gave that kid a military funeral because he really wanted to be in the military, and so some guy from the military gave up his funeral so that kid could have a military funeral. And that's interesting. But I've never had like death personally affect me. I've never had anybody that I've been like close to die. Oh yeah, hopefully there's a noticeable increase in quality. I've been playing around with video settings, and so in theory this should be looking a lot better. I didn't really notice it as much before because the editing software I use, it's like 50% preview of it, so I'm seeing everything in about 720p. But like just watching it on YouTube, it's like, holy shit, this looks like garbage. So hopefully that's not the case anymore. I've also increased the GUI scale. To be honest, it's just a lot easier on the eyes. The one thing that does suck is I can't take screenshots I can't grab shots from the video as easily. All of my thumbnails are just like random frames from my videos, and having like a really tiny hotbar really helps you like grab, screenshots. I'll just have to like take screenshots occasionally and like actually try or something. See, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna keep fishing. I'm gonna find a really cool like Lure 2 Luck of the Sea 3 fishing rod. And then I'm going to have to combine it with my Mending Unbreaking fishing rod, and all the levels I got from fishing are going to be gone. It's weird thinking about, like, it's kind of crazy just how, like, toxic and, like, I don't know, just sad my church was. They were a lot of nice people. And I think even if you have, like, a harmful ideology, I feel like just getting together, like, every week with a bunch of people, occasionally doing, like, cookouts and potlucks, I think just that is like very healing, the social aspect of church, and the lack of that like anywhere else is like really like an issue, I think. But like they're just so, it's so exhausting living with just all that constant guilt and stress over arbitrary things. And it's also funny because like it's not like that really went away from me. It's just I stopped worrying about Christianity specifically. I stopped worrying about like, oh, are my actions angering like God? Instead it's like, oh, are my actions like angering people? Are my actions harming people? Am I a bad person? But I don't know. They're just like I remember growing up, I was told that meditation was like bad. It's a big like thing against meditation because it was seen as like a Buddhist thing. And they're like, yeah, the only meditation you should do is like on the word of God. And I remember like one time this lady came to our school, and it was like, I don't know, she was like social worker, like, or boys and girls. Oh, hey. She came in to talk about meditation to us, and I was like scared. To me, it felt like I was like in the middle of like a demon, like a school sponsored like demon summoning ritual. I remember being so freaked out with like the whole experience, and like the whole time I tried to make like jokes about it. I would like loudly talk over it, and she's like, "You're supposed to be quiet." And I just generally did not take it seriously. I remember being told one of the things, the big things growing up was the phrase "believe in yourself" is like an inherently evil phrase. You know, it's Christianity. You aren't supposed to believe in yourself. You're supposed to believe in the Lord, and the only time you can believe in yourself is when you have been like imbued with the Lord's power. The only time you do anything good, it is through the grace of God. I remember the show Arthur had the line "believe in yourself" in the beginning, and I remember like that was another thing where it kind of like I got this sense of panic where it's like, oh shit, fuck, this is like this evil show right here. I was allowed to watch Arthur, but like specifically that line, my mom always told me that it was bullshit. It's just such a weird fucking like thing. Just looking at it now, like that is so weird. I currently cannot fathom like being like so self-admonishing that it's like, oh, don't believe in yourself even. It's just I don't think it's healthy. I don't think like anyone at my church had like high self-esteem. It's just a bunch of like constantly guilty, like, you know, sad people. And I think that's like an oversimplified way of looking at it. And I'm sure if I talk to them, they'd tell me they're like the happiest people in the world, because they have to be. And if you're sad, you're setting a bad example of Christians. And I don't know. I think my Christian upbringing has like definitely influenced me a lot though. You know, I think my Christian upbringing, like simultaneously, I think it like influenced me a lot, but I also think that like if not for that, would it just be something else? Because I've met like a ton of people who have like the same issues and never grew up like strictly, you know, fundamentalist or whatever. Are my personal struggles more related to just growing up in like an unstable environment generally than they are to like Christianity, fundamentalism, like specifically? I think the problem also is that like I live in America. There's a very strong fundamentalist like influence on everything, Christian influence on everything, Protestant influence. I think everybody in America basically experiences a lot of the same issues, even if they don't grow up Christian, because of how ingrained it is into society or whatever. So who am I to like, I don't know, make it out to be this unique issue to myself? I don't know. I think a lot of people who end up with like low self-esteem though, it's not as direct of a teaching. It's more like indirect through like your parents treating you like you're lesser, your parents like telling you you're like a bad person, or like, you know, putting you down. Not necessarily through any like concrete beliefs that you were just fundamentally worthless as a human being. This is like the most boring view yet. I've been trying to rotate around the island for like, I don't know, cool views, but this is the worst one yet. I don't know, like if you have like a parent who tells you like you can't do anything right, that's gonna like mess with your self-esteem for like forever, you know? Definitely. But I don't know, with the specific form of like Christianity I grew up with, it's interesting because that was just a codified like belief that was something we said out loud constantly to ourselves, you know. I am like worthless, I am the scum of the earth, I am like not deserving of love inherently, and it's only through the grace of God that I am not just smote down instantly because I deserve that. Like, I think even the most like abusive households, it'd be hard to find a situation where it's just that constant and that like pervasive, you know? But I guess I also wouldn't know. I've definitely seen some like really bad home environments where it's just like, yeah, but they were also Christian, so it's like not, damn, I don't know. It's so weird also, just like, you know, growing up, I always felt like an outsider. Just like no matter where I was, I felt like an outsider. You know, at my church, I wasn't Christian enough for church. I wasn't secular enough for like my friends. my family didn't make enough money to be like middle class, but we also didn't make enough to be poor either. You know, I can't really relate to like my friends because they're all like middle class, and I can't relate to like the poor kids because like I guess my friends were also poor, but I don't know. You know, I was too smart for normal classes, but too dumb for gifted classes. It's just this constant feeling of inadequacy and like I don't know, I don't belong here. And obviously, this is a very black and white way of like thinking about it all, because you know there were people who I understood, they understood me. I'm not trying to make it out that like you know I was just alone my entire life. It's more of a observation of kind of how it felt, how I feel, than any like concrete you know realities. I feel generally alienated from people. I don't think I feel comfortable anywhere. I think no matter what I do, I'm always like unhappy in some way. I think that's just like life, right? Well, I'm like I don't know. That's such a vague thing to like complain about too, because it's like yeah, you're not gonna be happy literally anywhere, but like the what matters is like the level of unhappiness. Like oh, I'm having a very good day, but like I don't know, they didn't have like I don't know the Smucker's jelly flavor that I wanted, like the restaurant I went to today. Like I have a great friend group, but like I don't know, one of them has a speech pattern that I find kind of annoying. Like it's better to have those problems than to have like the problem of like oh my friends are like really shitty to me and they like put me down all the time. Oh like I didn't eat anything today, right? Like I don't know. Yeah, technically, like every situation has some amount of bad, but to like you know play some sort of false equivalence between them is idiotic. Like, oh yeah, well everything sucks anyways, so there's no difference. That's stupid, right? I don't know why I'm so discontent with my life. I feel like the way I was raised, I should be like very content, right? Because it was like, you know, it's a very Christiany, like be thankful for what you have, be happy even if like you have like nothing. And I guess you know you could I think the Christian argument would be well that's because like God is supposed to make you happy. But I don't know, like personally God never really made me happy. Just mostly like I don't know, I felt like shit. And it's so frustrating because you can't have an honest conversation about it with a Christian because they'll immediately tell you you're doing it wrong because they personally get happiness from religion. And if you don't, it's not because you're like a different kind of person than them. It's not because you have different things that make you happy. It's just you're doing it wrong. Do it like me. I do it this way. Makes me happy. If it doesn't make you happy, you're fucked up, dude. Man, even when I was like younger, it just the coolest thing about religion when I was younger, it was just like the stories. I loved the stories. I loved like the mythology of it. I liked imagining like oh cool, like this is how the world came to be. And you know, it was bullshit, but it's like I don't know. It's kind of I feel like it's probably why I'm interested in history. Like I'm not a huge history buff, but like I have a passing interest in it. And it's kind of the same thing where it's like, oh, this is like an event that happened. We know this happened. Also Veggie Tales, that's like the other good thing to come out of my Christian upbringing. I think we fish until we get 30 levels. I think that's what we do. All that fish and I'm still eating rotten flesh. What's wrong with me? All right, you know, I think we're gonna go. I think we're gonna go out a little bit. I think we're gonna go on a fishing trip. Let's find a different pond. Let's go over there. That place looks pretty. I think you know the fish just aren't biting on this side of the lake. Let's go around. You know, fishing is like not that bad. If you've never tried it and you're okay with the idea of like killing fish, I would recommend trying it. I don't know. It's very boring, I guess. But that's kind of like the appeal. You know, I think fishing has the same appeal as like a lot of very grindy video games where it's like I don't even have to think. I just have it kind of going in the background and I, you know, read a book or just sit there and like relax. I think that's kind of the appeal of fishing. And I get if that's like boring to you, but I don't know. Ooh, this is I like this place. It's like a nice little secret fishing cove. Let's go fishing. You know, it's hot sitting out here in the hot sun. Let's see if I can take off my jacket. Did I make the skin so I could take off my jacket? I did. Look at me. Oh. Now I look more like a fisherman. This is more fitting. Hold on, take off the cape. There we go. Now I'm like a humble fisherman. Look at me. Honestly, I should fish more, like in real life. I don't know. The issue is like, why would I fish specifically? I don't really like fish. Like, I don't like fish as a food. The only fish I can tolerate are like salmon or tuna. Like, I don't know why I would go fishing when I could just like go somewhere and just chill out and enjoy nature without fishing, you know? I don't know, cause but it is kind of fun to do something. There is something fun about fishing. It's like kind of satisfying, you know? It's like, oh. But I don't know. And I also don't like killing fish and like gutting them. It's always like an uncomfortable process. And I always feel bad fishing because it's like I'm taking the life of something that I don't even want to eat. And before, you know, I could get away with it because it's like, well, my family's going to eat it anyways. Like, I'm going to catch it and it's going to be fine because someone else will like enjoy it. But like nowadays, like, I would just have a fucking fish and it's like, okay, cool. Well, fuck. Now I gotta eat this fish, I guess. But I don't know. Fishing is kind of fun. I still remember the first time I caught a fish. I'm gonna tell you the story, even though you don't give a shit. So I was at this lake, and I was in some really fucking shallow water too. Like, it was really shallow water. And I had this little kitty, you know, Spider-Man fishing pole. Oh my god, I fucking loved Spider-Man when I was a kid. I was so fucking obsessed with Spider-Man. And I kept getting my hook like snagged on all the rocks cuz like we were at the shore and it was like a really shallow shore. Ton of rocks. I kept getting my fishing pole, like my hook stuck on the rocks. Then my dad had to like unsnag me and he'd get like really frustrated. Right before we left, I got my hook snagged again, and I'm like, oh, Dad, my hook's stuck. He's like, you got it stuck on the rocks again. And then like he reeled it in for me, and it was a fish on the other end. And he was like, oh, you caught a fish. I feel like maybe that's like the start of like my lack of respect for my father. I don't have much respect for like either of my parents. And I think a lot of that is because they just kept making like very goofy blunders when I was younger. I remember one time there was like this big vegetable chopper, and it always scared me as a kid. We were chopping carrots, me and my dad, and he was like, all right, you're going to help me with this. Now, don't chop my finger off. Don't chop my finger off, kid. We kept chopping, and then he like accidentally chopped into my finger. It didn't get chopped off or anything, but he like cut my finger. I was crying. He was like, it's funny that I kept telling you not to cut my finger off, and then I accidentally chopped your finger. But my childhood is just filled with like moments like that. Both of my parents were like in their 20s when I was younger. That's really weird to fucking think about. I work with people who were like as old as my parents were when I was younger. Like, I am currently 20 years old. That is the age that my parents had me at. My mom was 19 and my dad was 20. It's fucking weird to think about. Like, that I am the same age my dad was when he had me. Oh, hey, I haven't actually been like picking these up. That's so cool. All right, let's go home. This is why I was fishing at my island. Right. Monsters. Right. But yeah, like when I was 6 years old and I caught that fish, my dad was 26 years old. That is insane. I know 26-year-olds. I've met people. I know people who are, I mean, of course I know people who are older than my dad, but like it's, you know, like you always see your parents as like the most mature people possible. But like looking back on it, so much of like my parents were literally just like 20-something-year-olds, and that's insane. And it explains so much. All right, we should probably use our fish supply. Maybe we should probably actually use this fish supply. All right, gamers. I think that's gonna be it though. I think we spent like the episode fishing. I don't know. I don't want to fish anymore, to be honest. We got a lot of fish. We're good for a while. All right.